of it. And so he finds himself, at the end of the day, completely poor, in a famine with nothing to eat, no money, living in a pigsty, craving the food that the pigs were eating. Craving it. He was so hungry. He was at the bottom of the barrel. He was at the end of his rope. He had wasted every single thing that he had. And I think a lot of times in life, we get to that place where we realize that we have turned away opportunities, that we have wasted things that we've had in our possession. There are times that I look back on and I realize that God brought people into my life in order for me to stop and pray with them, and instead I went on my way. Okay, maybe I didn't waste a whole generation's worth of inheritance, but I wasted an opportunity. When we waste opportunity, there's regret, and there can be guilt, and there can be a little bit of remorse. And that times 1,000,000 is what the younger son was thinking. There was no way he was going to be able to show his face in the village where his father lived. The best he could possibly hope for was to be a slave in his father's house, a servant in his father's house. And he starts to formulate this plan about going home to visit his father, try to get at least hired on as a servant so he could start making a little money. He said, there's more than enough bread in my father's house. There's more than enough of what I need in my father's house. Even the servants have enough. And you know what I kind of thought of when I look at this? It wasn't that the son was sitting there and he goes, man, you know what? I really realized what I did was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Remorse really never came out of his mouth. What came out of his mouth is, I'm hungry and I need something to eat. And there is bread in my father's house. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home, and this is going to be my plan of re-entry. I'm going to go to my father and I'm going to say, I'm not worthy to be called your son. Please hire me on as one of your hired hands. You see, he wasn't necessarily saying, I see the wrong of what I've done. He was like, I'm hungry, I need bread. This is the best way to get it. Wasn't necessarily, you can read it that way, but it wasn't necessarily him being sorry for what he did right then at that moment. And I think a lot of times people come into this house, into the house of God, and they're not coming because of noble motives. They're not necessarily coming because they want to have a greater revelation of the grace of God, or they need to learn the Bible better, because they necessarily want to clean up their lives. Most of the time when people come to the house, they're coming because they're just hungry. They're just actually hungry, and they have need, and they know that they smell like pigsties, and they just need a way to get back in. And for the most part, most people anticipate not being received, but maybe if they can just get hired on, if they can just pay us back, if they can just pay God back, if they can just get their life together, then maybe they can deserve finally to be in the house. And I pray that always, we're so great at this as a church, and I pray that we'll always heat this value up, but I pray that we'll always be people who don't stop the prodigals coming home at the door and say, oh, excuse me, you smell like pig, and so before you can come in, you need to clean all that up. They know that. He knew he smelled like a pigsty. For the most part, I think people know. They know nobody's more acquainted with our faults and our shortcomings and the ways that we fail than us. You can't tell me more about my failures than I can tell you. I can promise you, for everything that I've done that you don't like, I can give you a list a lot longer, the things that I've done that I don't like. Most people are pretty much aware of their feelings. And when they come home, they're really just saying, hey, is anybody home? Is there anybody waiting at home for me who cares that I'm coming, that will receive me when I come? And so the prodigal son gets up and he starts on the way back home. Now, home. What is home? Everybody has a different idea of home. Home is a place where we find refuge from the day. We leave the front doors, we go outside. The world slings pain on us, slings mud on us, makes us frazzled and stressed and angry. Just sometimes just your drive back and forth can just set you off. Things are going wrong. When we walk into the door of home, it's a place where we can, I'm home. Home is a place where you don't have to put up a front and pretend to be somebody you're not. In fact, if you tried to do that, it wouldn't work because everybody there knows you too well. They know you're not that person, so you don't have to pretend. You know, home, there's a reason why we treat people better in our house, like treat our family sometimes worse than we treat people outside the family. Because you know what? They're stuck with us. You can't get rid of us. I'm your sister, I'm your brother, whether you like it or not. You just, you can run away from it, but you can't hide from it. I'm always here. Home, there's security in the commitment of home. You know, Stovall and I are from Louisiana, originally from Baton Rouge, and now, of course, Jacksonville. I love what God's done here. He's planted me here. But for the first 10 years that I lived here, I was incredibly homesick. I was so homesick. I loved our church. I never want to leave. But there was just a part of my heart. There's always a part of my heart that will belong to Baton Rouge. You know, calling Baton Rouge. Who's that guy? Operator, won't you put me on through? Got to send my love down to Baton Rouge. Garth Brooks, that guy, right? So that's my Southern girl anthem. But, there's a part of my heart that will always belong in Baton Rouge, and we've driven that route many times. Stovall and I pulled the kids into the car, and we've made the drive home. And, I know it so well now. It starts with we take that I-10 split downtown Jacksonville, and we follow that I-10 all the way down the Panhandle, and then you cross that Pensacola Bay. There's that big Pensacola Bay Bridge. It's really long, and then you hit the other side of that, and you go to Starbucks, because when you're in the car with your kids, no matter what age they are, you need lots of coffee. And then we continue there, and then after the Pensacola Bay, the next landmark is the Mobile. There's that tunnel in Mobile. It goes under the water, right? So we cross through that tunnel, and we all try to hold our breath the whole time we're in the tunnel, and we all cheat, but we say we're not cheating. And then we come up on the other side, so that's another landmark. Then after that, we hit what I call Casino Alley in Mississippi. We pass through Biloxi, and there's casinos after casinos. You would not believe all the people that go. I mean, there's so many casinos in Mississippi. Who would have thought? I would have never realized that could be such a hot spot for gambling, but must be. So then we hit that. We drive through Casino Alley, and then right when we're crossing over the border, there's a certain place over the border when you cross from Mississippi to Louisiana, and it's always around the same time, 5, 6, between 5 and 6 at night, and I see this it's like the sun is kind of starting to set, and the marsh grass, the light is settling down below the horizon, and there's this pink cast over the marsh, and you see some egrets and some birds and maybe some ducks flying out, and that's when I start going, okay, I know I'm getting close. There's marsh, there's ducks, the casinos are behind me, and we keep going. We go through a few other cities, and then we hit Baton Rouge, and go to Baton Rouge. I start seeing signs of home. And I start seeing, there's the LSU Stadium. I can see it from the interstate. No, there's where my friend used to live. And this is where I used to go to high school. And this is where we used to try to sneak away between classes and go to lunch. And I start remembering all the things that make home home. All the good things that made home home. And my heart just began to warm up. I wanted to be home. And then it would get even better when I drove into my neighborhood. And I would make those familiar turns into my neighborhood. And I would see, this is the house where that lady one year bought a whole case of Girl Scout cookies. That was awesome. I won the prize that year. And this is where I was the time I was lost, and my mom thought I was kidnapped, but I was really just trying to break my record for selling those world finest chocolate almond things. And then this is where my bike broke down. And this was the snowball stand where I used to walk down the road and get snowballs with my sister. And then we turned the corner. And I don't know why this always surprises me every single time we go back home, but we round the corner to my mom's street, and it's I look on her porch. And I always look to see first, is the porch light on? And I don't know why, because it's my mom. She's always had the porch light on. She's never left it off. But somehow when I round that corner and I see the porch light on, it's the porch light's on. It always they're up. They're waiting for me. And then not only that, but there's light in the windows. They're not just left on the porch light, somebody's awake in there. They waited up for me. And then the best of the best of the best is when I open that back door and I go, is anybody home? And then, yeah, you're here. And then I walk into this smell, and it's a great smell. And I know that all of you in here think that you've had lasagna, but I have to tell you that you haven't. And I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, because I know it's a disappointment, but if you haven't eaten my mom's lasagna, you really haven't had lasagna. So I hate to break it to you. That's just how it is. So I walk in, my mom, the porch light's on. I don't care if I get there at 11 o'clock at night, the table is set, there's lasagna in the oven, there's light in the window, and she's waiting up for me. I want to be the kind of church that when people travel the streets of life,